What up, Doe? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast sponsored by Don't Make a Prediction About College Football this year because it'll bite you in the ass.com. This is, of course, the podcast where six guys from around the British Isles come together to talk about anything and everything Detroit Lions. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick, and I'm joined, as always, by Ryan McCluskey, which can only mean another week of college football has passed by. And last week, we had the week of many upsets when 9 of the top 25 were defeated. This week, we have had the week of the upset. We said last week that there were two titans in college football who looked unbeatable, and one of them promptly turned around and lost and made us look a bit foolish with that prediction. Outside of that, very high scoring weekend. 30 was a minor score in a lot of the other games, and there will be a few defensive coordinators with massive headaches this week. Ryan, another mad week. A Titan has fallen. So many points were scored. Another great weekend to watch.
No, I totally agree. Like I say, it wasn't a weekend for defense. There wasn't a lot of great defense played. Teams were just in shootouts. They were trying to outscore one another. Like I say, we saw two games that totaled 100 points. Like I say, they were fantastic end-to-end scoring contests. Like I say, we saw the biggest upset of the season, which left the door open now for some possible contenders to come in. Really shakes up what we think of the top five. And I think, like I say, my own team, like I say, we keep on trucking. Like I say, one of the better teams right now in the nation. But no, it was a good weekend. And like I say, there was a few more notable injuries, unfortunately.
Yeah, as always, we've got a few to go through in a bit. So yeah, we will drop in there, but we've got a lot to get through. So we're going to dive straight down into the news. And as we had one titanic upset in the score lines, we've also had one huge upset in terms of the draft. One Spencer Rattler, quarterback at the Oklahoma Sooners, presumptive #1 draft pick going into this year, Lincoln Riley's next great project, has been benched. Now, that would have seemed unfathomable at the start of the season, but Oklahoma, while scoring a lot, have been struggling to put away games this year. And there have been noises made in the direction of Caleb Williams, who is the next big thing to come out of Oklahoma. He's a 5-star recruit. People are so excited about him. Last week, they were chanting for his name. They were chanting for Rattler to be replaced. And Sooner fans got exactly what they wished for. They were playing the Texas Longhorns this weekend. We're going to talk about the game in a little bit. But at the time when Rattler got benched, it was fair to say that the Longhorns were putting a whipping down on Oklahoma. Spencer Rattler had gone 9 of 16 completed passes, 112 yards, no touchdowns, an interception, and he'd rushed in for a touchdown. His replacement, Caleb Williams, finally saw the field, comes in 15 of 24, 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, brings the Sooners back from an impossible situation. And as a result of that, for this week's upcoming game against TCU, Lincoln Riley has come out and said that Caleb Williams is going to be the starter. And now, presumably, it is his job to lose. Ryan, 6 weeks into the season and the presumptive #1 pick in the next draft has been benched. Who would have seen this coming at the beginning of the year?
Not many people saw this coming. And arguably that's because if you look at the strength of schedule, Oklahoma have not had a hard schedule, but they've made hard work of all the games on it. Week 1 against, I think it was Tulane, like you say, they won by just a handful of points. They shipped 40. Like I say, they have been really disappointing in general across the board for me. Like I say, and this kind of just capitulates everything that's wrong with them. Like I say, he's making off-target throws. His completion percentage has not been that very good week in, week out. That first half wasn't great. They had an exception, balls carry, but it's coughs up the ball. Like I say, there were fumbles in there. Like I say, there were momentum changing times that the ball's been given away. And I applaud Lincoln Riley. Like I say, it's shown real balls to bench Rattler against a dangerous opponent in TCU this week coming up. It could backfire massively. If things don't go well, everyone's going to look at him. Like I say, but no quarterback is protected. It don't matter who you are, like you say, and this kills his draft stock. Like I say, Rattler might not ever go in the top 10 with how this season's panning out right now. Like I say, he's sliding. And there's, like I say, it's Williams' job to win. Rattler may not see the field again this season if things go well from here on out.
Exactly. Who knows what this is going to do? This could knock him out the first round all told, if he doesn't play again, which is something we never ever thought we'd have been saying at the start of this season. The thing that really bugged me about this, and the thing that, you know what, I'm kind of glad he's falling away because the Lions aren't going to consider him now. Caleb Williams, as he threw for 211 yards. He also rushed for 90 yards on just 4 carries, and one of them was a near 60-yard carry for a touchdown. And do you know how Spencer Rattler celebrated on the sideline that his teammate, his fellow quarterback, making his debut pretty much, went in and made such an important play in the game? He sat there with a miserable look on his face and didn't even smile. He didn't celebrate. He didn't go and congratulate his teammate. That's just indicative of this shoddy attitude and ego that he has, and why everyone needs to stay away from him in this draft.
No, I totally agree. It goes back to if anyone has Netflix, watch QB1. Like say under lights elite series when he was coming through the ranks before he got to Oklahoma. This kid's a bit of a spoiled brat. He should really he was sat on the bench sulking because Riley sat his ass after a poor stint. Didn't even show anything to say that, oh, we're back in the game. Things maybe were turning the tide. He just didn't show any sort of maturity. It really questions an attitude that people think he's got. He thinks very highly of himself. He does need humbling. Before he gets to the pros, he needs to take a serious hard look at himself and question, because this won't be tolerated in a pro locker room. He's going to be going between men. And right now he's just acting like a little boy.
Yeah, absolutely. It just, for me, was just indicative of everything that I don't like about him. And, you can't have that type of attitude, as you say, at the senior level, because they're not going to take it. At least celebrate with him. God, he's your teammate. He's just made one of the biggest plays of his career. Go up and help it. And that will show you, that will do more for your draft stock than a team player than it will sulking on the bench, worrying about your own position there. But, it remains to be seen. But, good luck to Caleb Williams. Hopefully he's able to take his opportunity this weekend. TCU are no slouchers. It'll be a tough game for him. And if he comes through that, then, the world is his oyster, as they say. But we'll move that on for now, because we'll talk about Oklahoma again later. We'll drop down into the power rankings, and last week we told you there were 17 undefeated teams left in college football. Well, 4 of them fell this weekend, and we are down to the last 13 teams out of the hundreds who started it in the FBS. There's just 13 left. We've got the Georgia Bulldogs, the Iowa Hawkeyes, you've got the Oklahoma Sooners, Cincinnati Bearcats, the Michigan Wolverines, the Michigan State Spartans, the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, the Kentucky Bulldogs. You've got Oklahoma State, the Tanner Mordecai-led SMU, San Diego State, and you've got UTSA, which is the University of Texas in San Antonio. Ryan, 6 weeks, technically 7 for some of these, into the season. If you'd have been told there were going to be 13 undefeated teams left, maybe outside of Oklahoma, how many of these other teams would you have predicted would be on that list?
To be honest, not many of them, to be honest. Look at SMU. They play questionable opposition, but they're so high powered under Mordecai, they're blowing teams away. But between them and Wake Forest, who play in the ACC, I would never have had them, undefeated right now. Saying they played Syracuse and Louisville, 2 big powered rivals, so I wouldn't have had them unbeaten. UTSA, they're led by one of the draft gems, but I wouldn't have had them, this lofty up. I think right now, we've got a lot less teams unbeaten than I thought it'd be at this stage. A lot have fallen, but there's a lot of teams that have sneaked in. Look at Michigan State. Who thought a Michigan State team could have gone unbeaten 6 weeks into the season? There's a real chance, that them and Michigan, by the time they meet, could both be unbeaten. There's very much a hot race in the Big Ten.
I think at this point, that's something you're wanting to happen, just for the state of Michigan football, for them both to go in. I think they'd both be 7-0 at the time, because they've got buys coming up. But I mean, that would be one of the biggest meetings between those two teams in recent history, I believe.
Yeah, if both teams were 7-0, I think it'd probably be the biggest. I guess it'd be the biggest meeting in rivalry history, because they're both top 10-ish. I can't imagine there's many times they've played where they've been unbeaten, both in top 10, and it would be a very interesting matchup. because, like I say, two high-powered running offenses. Who could stop it? Like, I can't wait to watch it because, like I said, they very much play similar football.
Oh no, it's going to be an absolute barnstormer, and hopefully, I'm looking forward to seeing it. And again, can't call a winner with it if they are going to now, makes it all the more fun. But it's one we wait to see. So, in terms of the AP Top 25, Georgia are now by far and away the top seeded team out there. They move up to number one. They're joined by Iowa and Oklahoma in 2 and 3. They're all 6-0. The Cincinnati Bearcats fourth, 5-0. Alabama and Ohio State, they both sit at 5-1. They are 5th and 6th, respectively. Ohio State seem to have got their gears together recently. They are dropping beatings on people every week now, severe. They put up 66 points this weekend as that juggernaut rolls on. The Wolverines are next in 7th. Penn State, they lost. They're down to 8th. Michigan State enter the top 10. As Ryan said, it will be a top 10 showdown if these two are still where they are. They're 6-0. And then Oregon round out the top 10. They are 4-1. And just outside the top 10, you've got a couple of sleeper teams here who haven't really been thought of so much so far. You've got Kentucky, the Bulldogs, who are 6-0, and then you've got Oklahoma State, who've managed to work their way up there to 5-0. I watched Oklahoma State for the first time this weekend, and they do have a sneaky good team there. I've seen them in the top 25, but I've not really paid much attention to them so far. But they're a good side this year, aren't they?
Yeah, they were pretty good sides last year. I think it's the quarterback Spencer Brown. Like he's quite a talented guy. He's got good dual threat and he's really tough. I saw last year, like he had one game, he cut his hand, he tore it to shreds. He went straight back out there and played and won the game. Like they've got a tough dude under center, and they have one of the leading tackling linebackers in the nation. I think it's Malcolm Rodriguez, who's just like a born leader. So they've got a leader on each side of the ball. Like I say, they've got some good playmakers. Like I say, they've got a Harvell Peel, safety on the back end. So there's talented guys there. Like I say, that I can't wait for when, like I say, they have their rivalry game. Because, like I say, it's going to be a real interesting matchup. Like I say, the schedule has been kind to Oklahoma State, but they overcame a good Kansas State. So I think, like I say, they could very well find themselves in the top 10 in next coming weeks if they keep this up.
Yeah, definitely. There are a lot of teams now in this top 25 who are making contenders out of themselves. And, it's great for the sport to see these other teams rise up. You've got the other undefeated teams, Coastal Carolina, they're 15th. Wake Forest, they're up to 16th. SMU and San Diego State, they're 23rd and 24th, but that's more down to strength of schedule. But that doesn't mean they are any the less good there. And your own Arizona State, they sit 22nd. But more importantly, they sit very pretty on top of their Pac-South division now, don't they?
Yeah, we're running the Pac-12, 3 conference wins. Like I say, better than anyone. Like I say, we pretty much control the whole conference. Like I say, we've got a game next against the team that's second in the conference, but we've got almost a 3-win lead. So we realistically, in a few weeks, if we were to carry on, like I say, beating teams, we're controlling and booking our place in the title game is very realistic. It's all in our own hands. These 2 games will go a long way to doing it against Utah and Washington State. We've, like I said, could be 5-0 in conference play by the time we get to USC, and that's the game out circled.
And they had their asses handed to them this weekend, so who knows what state they're going to be in by the time you get to them. So right, so finishing off the news now, because we've still got a bit to go through. So we mentioned a couple of weeks ago there have been a few bad boys in the division who'd been misbehaving a bit. One of those was Gavin Adcock, the defensive tackle of Georgia Southern, who was done for chugging a beer on a moving bus, which wasn't the wisest thing about him. Well, he came back this weekend. He only got a 1-game suspension. He played against Troy at the weekend. He recorded 0 tackles, and then after the game, posted up some really cocky Snapchats talking about the lack of, recourse on him. He said the suspension was weak, etc. And these got through to some of the team sponsors who didn't like the attitude he was showing, especially because it was quite a severe breach of protocol. And they got in touch with the school said they didn't like it, and now he's been cut permanently. So, way to ruin your career in a few weeks, chugging a beer and then just taking the mick out of your suspension for that. He's gone. So, don't know what's going to happen to him now, but a very bad few weeks for him. The Miami Hurricanes, they're having an absolute rotten season. They've started 2-3. This was a season where a lot was expected of them. They've got a head coach who's on a really, really hot seat at the minute, probably not far away from being fired if he carries on the way he is. Their starting quarterback, who we're going to mention in a minute, has been ruled out for the season. And now they've lost a 4-star commit from next season. That is Traquan Fergans, who is the 11th ranked cornerback and 85th ranked player in the 2022 college recruiting class. He's a 4-star guy. This is a big flip for them. He's now said he wants to go elsewhere, and this is presumably down to their bad start on the field and uncertainty off it. They're just having a rotten season in every facet at the moment, aren't they, Ryan?
Yeah, like I say, it's not gone well because, like I say, the quarterback, he was supposed to do good things in his final year. Like, everyone thought really highly of this dynamic dual threat weapon that was finally maturing and coming of age. Like I say, unfortunately, season's been cut short. But before then, right now, things have not been going well. They lost a nail-biting, a heartbreaking loss the other day. Like I say, managed to catch the end of it. Like I say, Manny, like I say, the head coach is, at this rate, like I say, things haven't gone his way, but he might survive the year at this rate. Like I say, when things aren't going well on the field and off the field, it shows because these recruits, they watch what happens. They watch their games. If they don't like where the team's trending, and all they do is reopen their commitment. Like I say, most of these guys just sign verbal letters of intent. So, like I say, until they sign the actual letter of content or intend to tell them to go to school, they can, like I say, they can cancel, open up and go transfer somewhere else. So nothing's concrete, especially if you're a team that's struggling. Like I say, a 4-star recruit is a big loss, especially to a team that's reloading a week because they lost a lot to a draft last year. They can't afford to lose big recruits.
Absolutely. That team last year was really good and loaded with some good players, but this is what happens when a good draft comes around and you lose them all in bulk. They struggle during the season. They start losing future commitments. It's going to be a hard way back for them. So we'll see how that unravels. And just to finish off the news, we talked about it last week, but the worst fixture of the century played out over the weekend, and it was that big that it transcends the results section, gets into the news as UMass took on UConn, neither side having won for 2 years. This was just basically the toilet bowl in all aspects. And UMass ended up coming out on top on the end. They won 27-13 as UConn are now confined to the bottom of the FBS power rankings, a place that they will likely occupy for some time. And what was more disappointing was I couldn't find a stream of it anywhere, but a winner has emerged, but UConn, that's just a real big indictment on them losing this one, isn't it?
It was the only winnable game in their schedule, like I say. And as a few people have told me, if it wasn't for their basketball, I think it is, they'd probably go down to FCS. I think that's the only sport that warrants them being in the top level. So that's the thing about college sports. It's not just one sport. The whole board has to be FBS or FCS. So their football right now, their asses are getting saved by other teams. And if I remember rightly, someone told me this was a UMass team that was averaging about 10 points a game. And they came in there and dropped 20 plus on them. Like, that is brutal. I feel sorry for the fans because that's just embarrassing.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's many happy ones knocking around at the moment. Yeah, UConn football team, pretty poor. We'll leave it at that. But well done to UMass. Enjoy your first victory in 2 years, and hopefully you might get a few more because I believe they have a couple more technically winnable fixtures on their schedule this year. But we're moving it on anyhow. That's all the news for this week. We're going to drop down into the injury corner. And as Ryan mentioned, there's been some big ones this week, as there seem to have been all weeks so far. So we'll start off, we'll go back to the Miami Hurricanes. The quarterback we mentioned, De'Eric King, he has been ruled out for the season. He injured his shoulder against Michigan State on September the 18th and has missed all the games since then. The coach said on Monday that the team knew the day after the MSU game that King would probably need surgery, but he's been trying to rehab it and not go for surgery in an effort to return to the field, and probably don't blame him because this is his last year of college eligibility. He's in his 6th year now. He's going to the draft whether he likes it or not this year, or if he chooses to. He's tried to wear it off, but it's not worked, so he's had to go get surgery on it now to fix the problem. Like I say, after 6 years, his collegiate career is now over, and he's going to chance himself in the draft, and we'll see what happens with that. LSU, they have suffered a huge double injury blow this week. So star wide receiver Keishon Butte, he's out for the season with a leg injury. He had 38 catches for 508 yards and a joint FBS leading 9 touchdowns. He was having a hell of a year, but he's done now. And also 5-star recruit and starting cornerback Eli Ricks' season is over as well, after he decided to get surgery on an undisclosed injury concern, but apparently it's been bothering him for some time, so he's chosen to get that fixed. And that comes a week after Derek Stingley Jr., the presumptive top 5 cornerback pick from LSU, was also ruled out for the year. So LSU have now lost both their starting corners, who are both really good players. And to finish it off, another hit for Minnesota in their backfield. Mohamed Ibrahim, he got injured really early on into the season. He was one of the best running backs in this class. Well, his replacement, Trey Potts, has been ruled out for the season, and there's rumors around that his collegiate career could be in danger. Full stop. He suffered an upper body injury. It wasn't apparent in the game what happened. He just got subbed out for a snap, went to get looked at, but then in short, they found something. He was taken to hospital, and he spent nearly 6 days in hospital while they dealt with an issue there. They don't know what it is, but apparently it could be serious. He's replaced Mohamed Ibrahim for this season, as I said. He's got 566 yards on 112 carries, and he scored 6 touchdowns. So he's done really well in relief there, and that's a shame. All thoughts to him. Hopefully, whatever it is, he's able to recover from and carry on playing. But I mean, just there, Ryan, Minnesota, horrible luck in their backfield this season. LSU just having horrible luck, full stop. And De'Aaron King, what the hell happens to him in the draft this year? I don't know where he goes at this point. Could he go as far as undrafted, or do you reckon someone is still going to take a chance on him?
I personally think someone might still take a chance on him. Like, if you go look at like last year or two of tape, like, he's actually done really well. Like, he looks like a really good dual threat quarterback. And I think the decision to have season-ending surgery, like now, he could have probably tried to play through it. But when you've got, like, say, you don't have eligibility remaining and drafts coming up, sometimes just shut your season down, take the surgery is better. Like, say, we know that with the Lions, like, look at Ragnow. Team players are choosing to have surgery, like, especially in bad years. Like, sometimes it's not worth risking your health. Like, look at all these LSU guys. Like, they probably looked at this season and thought, God, this season's going down the pan. It's a bit shitty. Like, things aren't going our way. Do I try limp on, try help the team to like win, or do I have surgery now? Like, say, be ready to go again next year. And like, say, it's happened to 3 of their biggest players. Like, say, Keishon was, like, say, one of the best receivers in the country. Like, say, he was a fantastic freshman. Like, he's got his whole career ahead of him. Ricks, he came from Matador High School. Like, he's another young man. So these are guys that have got a lot of eligibility left at least. So, like, say, for Minnesota, it's awful. I thought their season would have been over when Ibrahim went down. But this Potts actually took the team on his back. He managed to win and scrape by a few games. But other than that, I think, like you say, I hope it's not serious. I hope it's not organs. I hope they haven't found anything wrong with his heart, which it could be. I'm guessing if it found in hospital, hopefully he's able to play again. Like I say, Minnesota just have to write off this season in general.
Yeah, it's not been a good one for them, and a lot of teams have had to suffer. But I say hopefully these guys are going to come back and get another shot at it. That's everything out of the injury corner this week. So we'll go out there and we'll go on to some happier bits, and we're going to go into the week 6 review now. And as of last week, usually there's a few games that catch the eye. This week I've got at least 10 written down because there are that many. So I'll dish out the awards quickly. There's a lot to talk about, and then we'll go into some of the more notable games. So the beating of the week this week goes to the Cincinnati Bearcats. They beat Temple 52-3. to win by a gap of 49 points. That was a pretty comprehensive one there. The Bearcats and Ridder looking really good this year. The upset of the week, well, there was only ever going to be one for this, but when one of your power two in college in the entirety of the country gets defeated, then it goes to that game. So Alabama, finally, for Nick Saban, his run of beating his assistants is over. And who would have seen this one coming? Texas A&M, the ones who we've maligned in recent weeks a lot on this podcast. Zach Calzada has not been playing well. That offense has not been playing well. The defense has been giving up a lot of points. Well, they roll up to play Alabama, and what happens? They beat them 41-38 in what was an incredibly good game. That is the upset of the week by far. No one saw that coming. I sure as hell didn't see that coming in a month of Sundays. And Zach Calzada played like an absolute man possessed, as if someone completely different had turned up on that team and started just completely balling out. And then the statement win of the week, there were quite a few here that I could have gone for, but judging, being that the quarterback change was made halfway through and this team came back from an absolute deficit, Oklahoma get this one. They played against the Texas Longhorns and they won 55-48, although I did give an honorable mention in there to Ryan's own Arizona State. Any of those you might change, Ryan, or do you agree? Do you think they were the right ones this week?
Yeah, for me personally, I thought the statement win was, I give it to Iowa. Right, they shut down Penn State. They managed to move the ball on such a stingy defense. But I'm a firm believer that if Sean Clifford doesn't get hurt, I think Penn State probably win that game. Unfortunately, that backup had to be coming at last second, and unfortunately, he just didn't look ready. He was never ready to step into that game. Like, he couldn't do it under the lights when it mattered. Like say Iowa, like say they were stingy again on defense. Like say they gave Spencer Petras not too much to do like they do, and they claimed a huge win. That is a huge win in the grand scheme of the playoff race and the let's say the Big Ten title. Like I say that was the game of the week for me. It was so close. It came down to fine margins. Like I say, Alabama weird. Personally, for me, I can't decide. I think they played down to Texas A&M's level as well as Texas A&M stepped up to their level because they weren't executing very well. This was the team that I could have seen a loss in Alabama's record, but I thought, like I say, it would have been Ole Miss. That we gave them a bigger chance of winning than Texas A&M. Like, I just, like I say, fair play to, like say, Zach Calzada. Like, he probably played the game of his life. He's never going to forget this. He won't have to drink. He won't have to buy a beer in that town, like say, all season for taking off Bama. This elevates Georgia. Now they're just on a pedestal, all on their own. Everyone else has now fallen below, and it's a big loss. But I think Alabama will respond quickly. They're going to put a beating on someone this weekend, like because they'll be playing pissed off. They'll be really upset they lost that game. Like say Saban losing to one of his assistants, that record's gone. Like they are going to be really licking their wounds. So I'd hate to be the next team that plays them.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think any of us saw that one coming, and it was just, yeah, this has just shown how mad the college season's been. But you're right, Georgia are on a pedestal now, and what's more scary is they're doing it without JT Daniels, who was injured again this weekend. And I mean, Stetson's not the best backup in the world. He's playing well, but JT's a level above. So when he comes back, if he's healthy, then, God help anyone who comes up against them. I do agree, Iowa was a big win this weekend, but as you mentioned, I think it was down to Clifford's injury, which is why I maybe didn't put it in there, because I would have liked to see them fight it out to the end. And there was another team, one of your favorite teams, who also got help from a quarterback injury this week to just sneak in and record a victory and upset my upset alert in the process. But anyhow, we'll drop down into the game. So there's only one place to start, and obviously that is Alabama and Texas A&M. So we mentioned about Zach Calzada. He'd been struggling to this point so far in his season, but he just came out in this one, and I think he went 10 for 10 to start it. They just came out so hot. They put up 17 points in the first quarter alone to give themselves a pedestal to stand on. But he went 21 of 31, 285 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Isaiah Spiller continuing his good year. He only got 46 yards, but he got a touchdown there as well. They got 4 sacks on Bryce Young, the Texas defense, so they were able to put him under a fair bit of pressure. But I mean, Alabama, I think the defense is where their problem is this year. And I'm going to talk more about it later because obviously Christian Harris is one of my to watch players, and those inside linebackers are struggling. But as terms of the offense went, there was nothing really wrong for Alabama. Bryce Young, 28 of 48, 369 yards, 3 touchdowns, did throw an interception, but it was a minor blot on his copybook. Brian Robinson Jr., the running back, he had a good day, 24 carries for 147 yards. He also got a further 60 in the passing game, so he had a 200-yard day. And then receiving wise, Jameson Williams led the way with 10 receptions, 146 yards and 2 touchdowns. And John Mechie, the speedy wide receiver, he got 7 receptions for 88 yards. So yeah, the offense did nothing wrong. 38 points wins you a lot of games, although not this week in college because so many teams put up 50. But it seems that defense is the weak point to go for there. The Gators nearly managed to exploit it a few weeks ago, but they couldn't see it out. But A&M, they got themselves over the line with this one.
Yeah, like you say, and it didn't help, like you say. Struggle with the run. Like those inside linebackers were not helping in run support. Like I say, the front, like I say, they were struggling. Like I say, there were holes for Spiller. Like I say, it's not 47 yards, isn't huge, but they were able to keep moving the chains. They managed to clock really well as well. Like I say, they didn't leave time for a comeback. Like I say, they left very little to work with in the end. Like I say, offensively, 400 passing yards, like I say, 38 points. That should realistically win you 10, 11 games a season easily, but it just wasn't enough, like I say. And Bryce Young, like I say, despite sacked 4 times, can hold his head really high. Like I say, they have to look at themselves in the mirror, that defense, and just say it was not good enough. Like I say, the tackles, there were missed tackles, there were blown coverages, which is not like an Alabama side. Like they're usually pretty sticky with their coverage, but guys got behind them. Like I say, they were getting beat deep. And this is just everything that we don't normally see from them. It was definitely a big off week. And I think people are going to be looking to see how they respond now. If I was the head coach, I'd be saying next week, I want to shut out. We don't give anything up. Like I say, I want to clamp teams down now and defensively. Like I say, and there's some profile names as well. Like I say, I've got like Jordan Battle. Like I say, he had a reasonable amount of tackles, but like I say, they got beat deep, like I say. So it was not a good day for these draft class profiles on the defense.
No, and not a single sack. I don't know whether that goes down to A&M's O-line. Obviously, they had a good day if they can keep him out, but not one single sack from an Alabama defense on a guy who's been having it rough, which just, I mean, this is a Texas A&M team who lost to Mississippi State the other week and, you know, could barely put up 20 points on them. I just don't know what to expect from them now. They've got Missouri this week. You know, is it a case of, I don't even know what to expect for them anymore. I don't know. They could win or lose next week and it wouldn't surprise me, but this was just such a weird one, wasn't it? I didn't see this coming at all.
No, like you say, it could go and get blown out now by the Missouri Tigers and it won't surprise anyone because they're very unpredictable. It's just a lack of inconsistency. That's what killing Texas A&M, like I say, and it's just this will be the highlight of a very disappointing year. They were supposed to be better this year. They were supposed to be back in the playoff race like they were, but things have just not panned out that way. Like I say, and they're just picking up cheap wins where they can, trying to be a party pooper and take some scalps.
Well, they've certainly done that. They've thrown the entire top 5 into confusion now, but we'll see what happens with Alabama. It's going to be interesting to see how they recover from this, but we'll move it on. So the next one we're going to have a look at, we're going to go back to the Oklahoma Sooners because this was Ryan's upset alert of the week. He put an upset on this. He said, Oklahoma, we're going to get beaten soon. And I mean, after portion of this game, he looked absolutely spot on with this. But in the first quarter alone, it ended, they were winning 28-7 after the first quarter. This Longhorns team just came out of the traps and laid down an absolute whooping on the Sooners. But I mean, Lincoln Riley, some say he's a genius. He certainly is with quarterbacks. He benched Spencer Rattler, who, as I say, had 112 yards and an interception, not the greatest. Caleb Williams comes in with 211 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kennedy Brooks, their running back, he had himself a day and a half. He got 217 yards and 2 touchdowns. Caleb Williams, he was the next biggest rusher. He had 88 yards and a touchdown. Spencer Rattler got himself a rushing touchdown as well. And Marvin Mims, he continues his wonderful season at wide receiver. He had 136 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Jeremiah Hall got 70 yards on 3 receptions, as the offense really filled their boots on this one. But as did Oklahoma's, so did Texas's. Their quarterback, Casey Thompson, had a real good day. 20 of 34, 388 yards and 5 touchdowns. In the rushing game, Ryan, I know you love this guy, Bijan Robinson, 20 carries, 137 yards and a touchdown, helping to complement their passing game. And by God, out of everyone in this game, Xavier Worthy had himself a day and a half, 9 receptions, 261 yards at an average of nearly 30 yards per reception, 2 touchdowns. And Joshua Moore also got himself 2 touchdowns on 4 receptions for 70 yards. I mean, this was one of 2 games, especially this week, which was just an all-out offense fest. And it's something that you'll love to see.
Yeah, well, like Bijan Robinson is fantastic. Like I say, he's one of the leading Heisman people in the race now. He puts games on his back. Like you say, that first half, he was just decimated. Like they challenged Oklahoma to stop the run, and they couldn't. Like I say, he was trucking people. I think he hurdled the guy, and this is a big, muscly guy. Like you say, but he's got that lovely, elegant touch. He cuts really well. And then Xavier Worthy, I'm pretty sure that kid's a freshman. I'm pretty sure this is his first year, and he diced them. I watched the game at the line of scrimmage. He was just hitting double moves, putting corners flat on their ass, beating them over the top. On one of his touchdowns, he makes the corner look silly. It was lovely. It's a compliment offense that just really balanced. It just works really well. Like I say, it eats clock when they use Robinson, but then they can take shots when they need to with these young, good pass catchers. I think the Texas, are a team that are set for the future. They've got the foundations right there now for a team that's going to be able to push on, maybe have themselves a playoff race in the next couple of years. I think I give big props to Lincoln Riley. Made the gutsy call to swap quarterbacks. I think in the end, that's probably what got them over the line. He saw that Rattler was struggling. He saw the crowd wanting to change. He thought to himself, he gave in to maybe a little bit of peer pressure. Swapped quarterbacks, gave a bit of spark to the offense. I think the dual threat capability, like I say, they got 80 yards from Williams on the ground, which kept some plays alive, kept drives alive. And in the end, I think that was probably a draw would have been fair. A tie, that would have been really fair. No team deserved to lose that game. But I think Texas gave a huge account of themselves. It's a loss that hurts, but it proves that they're kind of ready there. They're with the big boys. In Oklahoma, well, they were lucky. Like I say, they almost lost that goose egg. They just scraped by for me. Like I say, they will probably not be that happy. They'll be glad to see the back of that week and survive it unbeaten.
Yeah, I mean, I think it stings a little more because this was your upset game. Both of us got screwed this week. I think we didn't see them coming back the way they did there, but it's an absolute hell of a game. And the Longhorns, after losing to Arkansas a few weeks back, their recovery has been tremendous. They put 73 up on Texas Tech, and then they've come and played Oklahoma and given them a game, put up 48 there. Like you say, their future seems set, and it's going to be interesting to see them maybe next season if they can get a few more bits in there as well, and they're not affected too much by the draft. But yeah, just all around, you just have to tip your hat to this game. Just an absolute show, especially for anyone getting acquainted with college football. This is the kind of game that just really whets your appetite for the game as a whole, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I think ultimately Texas ran out of steam. I think when it got to the fourth quarter, some of the lads were flagging a bit. I think, like you say, if they'd have put together 4 complete quarters, I think they probably could have sealed this one out. Like I say, odd laps in concentration. Like I say, they were upset. But like I say, it was a great a huge just billboard poster game for this season. It shows that no one's safe, everyone is vulnerable. Like I say, to getting benched and or like I say, not having their way in a game. Lincoln Riley, like I say, is supposed to be a genius, but he struggles at times, like I say, and they had to rely on like individuals like Marvin Mims making fantastic plays, like I say, when they didn't necessarily deserve it.
Yep, absolutely. Sometimes you don't get what you deserve, but all is part of the fun. Now in that little review there, you mentioned the words running back and Heisman candidate, which means that I'll have to go to another game that I wasn't planning on doing so, but I did see a little bit of it because if we've got Michigan-based listeners here, there's only one guy that they believe is a running back and he's a Heisman candidate, and he plays for the Michigan State Spartans, who continued their great start to the year. They've gone 6-0. They played Rutgers this weekend, maybe not the greatest opposition in the book, but they put them away 31 points to 13. Their offense looks absolutely, it looks really good this year. It really good. Peyton Thorne has come into that side when he wasn't meant to be the starter, and he looks completely at home with how he is playing. He went 16 of 27 on the day for 339 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. In the receiving game, Jalen Naylor, he led the way, 5 receptions, 221 yards, at just a mere 44.2 yards per reception, and 3 touchdowns. But the guy who everyone is talking about in Michigan green is, of course, Kenneth Walker, the rushing back. 29 carries, 233 yards, an average of 8 yards per carry, and a touchdown. I believe he's near 1,000 yards for the season already. I mean, what an absolute revelation he's been to this Spartans team. He's the backbone of this offense, but guys like Thorne, Naylor, they are complementing him very well, and they just look such a good unit this year.
Yeah, they do. Like I say, when you've got a great running back, it just takes so much pressure off that passing game. When you know you only have to throw the ball 20, 25 times a game, like that puts your position and quarterback. It just calms him down, knowing that his running back's got this. That means the defense is honest because they're willing to stack the box to stop the run. Speedy Naylor, like those deep shots, they kill you. When you're prepared to stop Walker and you bring one of the safeties up, like, and you play single high safety, your receiver looks at that and thinks, I'm going after him. And a guy that is called, like, say, Speedy Naylor, like, he tore them to shreds. He's a dangerous return man. He's just got electric speed and all the way. I'm pretty sure Kenneth Walker, did he not set the entire school record for the longest play from scrimmage? Didn't he score a 99-yard rushing touchdown? I think it was. I think he broke a record this weekend. Like I say, he has got elite speed. He can run 100 yards, like I say, in a matter of seconds, and no one even looked like catching him. So this Michigan offense looks the real deal. It's keeping the defense off the field by managing the clock. But even then, they've had a few turnovers, a few interceptions. This is probably one of the best Michigan State teams I've seen for maybe a decade. Like I say, and that's just because they're getting the fundamentals right. They're blocking well on the outside. The offensive line is creating huge holes. And Kenneth Walker, like I say, I don't think Kenneth Walker will win the Heisman. That's purely because of his name and who he is. Even though he deserves it, they will look down at him for being a Michigan State player. But yeah, through 6 games, nearly 1,000 yards, outstanding season. Like I say, he is going to go down in history as probably one of the leading rushers of all time in school history when all is said and done.
Absolutely. He looks an absolute beast of a player. And, I'm going to be very interested to see if he has a game like that against the Wolverines. I don't know. I think the Heisman's got to be in consideration for him. But like I say, he's not at the biggest school. It may count against him. But, let's just enjoy this Spartans team while we can. I've enjoyed watching them this year, and I didn't think that was going to be the case. But, fair play to them. Fair play to both Michigan sides, to be fair. They've both done really well this season. Hopefully we get a 7-0 shootout in a couple of weeks, which is going to be one of the biggest games of the season to look forward to going forward. So anyhow, we'll move it on because I wasn't really going to talk about that one in there. We're going to move up to the next high scoring one of this week. And last week, when we were talking about the games to watch, we were looking at the 2 teams who've been absolutely destroyed by Georgia and Alabama the week before. That was the Ole Miss Rebels, led by Matt Corral, facing off against the Arkansas Razorbacks with my favorite guy, Treylon Burks, at wide receiver there. And this was a game that delivered and a half. Ole Miss won this 52 points to 51. 103 points all told. And the only reason it didn't finish all square is because Arkansas went for the 2-point conversion right at the end to win it all. And sadly, it didn't come off. But my God, this was one hell of a game. Matt Corral had another very solid outing. He went 14 of 21, 287 yards, 2 touchdowns. The rushing game, my word, Henry Parrish Jr., 18 carries, 111 yards, no touchdowns though. Jared Connor, 12 carries, 110 yards, 3 touchdowns. Matt Corral, 15 carries, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's 5 rushing touchdowns and pretty much 3 guys up at 100 yards. Arkansas could not stop the run to save their life. In the receiving game, Braylon Sanders, 127 yards and 1 touchdown on 2 receptions for a measly 63.5 yards per reception. And Dontario Drummond just continues his wonderful year. 2 receptions, 78 yards and a touchdown. On the Arkansas side, KJ Jefferson, the quarterback, he went 25 of 35, 326 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also rushed for 85 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. So he had 6 on the day. Raheem Sanders, their starting running back, 17 carries, 139 yards. Treylon Smith, 11 carries, 85 yards. Again, 3 guys over 80 yards of rushing. Ole Miss also had trouble stopping the run. In the receiving game, Treylon Burks, he had himself a day, 7 receptions, 136 yards, 1 touchdown, and Warren Thompson had himself 4 receptions, 76 yards, a touchdown as well, and Trey Knox also got himself a touchdown. Another one where defensive coordinators will have gone to sleep with a really, really bad headache, but for the neutral, what a game.
Yeah, for the neutral, this was the game of the weekend. Like Arkansas had questions, like say, coming into this game. Ole Miss, like say, they've both taken a spanking recently. Like say, would Matt Corral be able to bounce back? Like say, Arkansas last year, I think it's through 5 interceptions. Like so, would he have had any bad memories about this game? For me personally, it was what he did with his legs better than he did with his arm. Like he kept the drives alive. He scored a fantastic touchdown where a defender, like you say, tried to hurdle him. He got clotheslined. He almost got snapped in half. He showed that he's got that durability. He's a strong, tough guy, even though he's got a small frame. Like Ole Miss, like they just moved the ball so well. Those deep shots to Braylon Sanders. There's some fantastic catches, like saying split the safeties just down the goal line. But Arkansas, like you say, Justin, like you say, KJ Jefferson, has been questions about his health because he's had some knocks recently. He's had a bit of a banged up hip, but he looked perfectly in motion. He took some shots, like say, Treylon Burks dominated the corners, like down at the goal line, carrying defenders into the end zone. He's a huge, strong, physical brute, but he's also got that speed to him as well. And like I say, in the end, it came down to, do you kick the extra point and go to overtime? No, you don't. You go for 2, and if you fail, you lose, but you play to win. It was heartbreaking loss, like I say, because they got the ball back with mere seconds on the clock. I thought Ole Miss had put this game away. Next minute, Arkansas at the 9-yard line with about a second to go. Dart of a touchdown. Next minute, they're trying to level it up. Like I say, it was gutting for them to lose. Or, like I say, Ole Miss really got away with one. Like I say, look at Lane Kiffin after what he said in the Bama game. Like, let's get some popcorn. He looked a bit smug last week. He has been humbled these last 2 weeks. Like, they have got away with one in a win and a loss. Like, he is going to probably think about some of the decision making that he makes on the field, because at times it wasn't ideal. But no, it was a brilliant game. Like, both teams just went all out. Like you say, how often do you get 2 teams that have 3 rushes over 80 yards? Neither team could stop the run. Absolutely just bulldoze one another. And to score nearly like 100 points, like I say, in such a short game because you were running the ball, is just outstanding. It was staggering stuff, and it just went by so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously, when you've got that much rushing in a game, the clock's going to go like mad. But I mean, to still put 103 points up on the board, fair play to both teams. No one loses this week for me. I know, obviously, Arkansas have lost their second game of the year, but both teams just put on an absolute clinic, and it was just a wonderful game to watch. And I just want to quickly say about KJ Jefferson at the start of this year, because obviously I've watched Arkansas very closely this year because I've been watching Traylon Burks, and at the start of the year, KJ Jefferson wasn't throwing much. He looked nervous. It's his first year really under center, and I was really concerned about Burks because of KJ Jefferson, but he's just grown so quickly. Watching him week on week, he just improves in leaps and bounds. And this game was just really almost a breakout game for him. He just looks so effortlessly good in everything he did. He rushes really well. You know, as you said, he's been playing through injury. He's taken a few big hits, but he's tough. He's stayed in there. He's playing well. He's throwing well. He's rushing well. He genuinely looks like he's going to be a great dual threat quarterback in the years to come. And, I think I'm going to carry on watching his development here because I'm very intrigued. He looks like he's going to be a very good quarterback come the time he's drafted, but that'll still be a few years away yet. But great game, and KJ Jefferson, well done. Carry on improving the way you are. You're going to be an absolute hell of a player one day, I think there. Still got a few games to go through, so we will carry on with those. So as Ryan's upset alert just missed out on the Texas Longhorns, I predicted Virginia Tech were going to upset Notre Dame this weekend, but they just fell short because of a very clutch last second field goal. Notre Dame came out 32-29 winners in this one. They used two quarterbacks again. They still can't seem to make their mind up about who's going to be the guy there. Jack Cohn, he was 9 of 12 for 108 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Buchner came in after that. He was 6 of 14, 113 yards, a touchdown, but 2 interceptions. Kyron Williams, the running back, he's having a good year, 81 yards and a touchdown there. Few receivers spread out some yardage between them. Virginia Tech now, Braxton Burmeister, he didn't have the best game throwing. He was 15 of 30, 184 yards and an interception, but he was the leading rusher for 49 yards and a rushing touchdown. Raheem Blackshear got himself a touchdown as well. Now, this is another one where it was very close throughout, but Virginia Tech were winning up until really late. But an injury to Braxton Burmeister forced him off the pitch, and his replacement Connor Bloomrick came in, and he's a rushing quarterback. He's one of those young guys who's not really been refined as a passer yet. And you could tell then the Virginia offense just kind of lost its potency. Notre Dame, fair enough to them, fought their way back into it. And in the very last seconds, their kicker, whose name escapes me, I can't remember, what was it? It was Jonathan Durer. He came up with a clutch 48-yard field goal to break Virginia Tech hearts and send Notre Dame home with the win. Again, if Burmeister had have been injured, would they have had the chance to win? We will never know, but fair play to Notre Dame. They were coming off a defeat. This is a very hard place to go to, Virginia Tech's ground. They came away, they snuck away with a win. Ryan, I know you love to talk about Notre Dame. What did you make of this one this week?
Yeah, I'll give credit to them this week. Like you say, they got a break when Burmeister went down, like I say, and they capitalised on it. I think it gave a bit of resurgence to the defense. Like I say, they managed to shut down for the best part a new quarterback that came in because Virginia Tech had to reassess what they were going to do on offense. I think in the end, they were just trying to kill the clock and hang on. And when you get to that stage where you're just trying to get over the line, like it's really hard. Like say you leave openings open. The quarterback situation is weird because, like I say, I've spoken to one of the people on Twitter. Jack Cohn is not the guy, but these people like Drew Pine, Tyler Buchner that are coming in, they're not taking opportunities. When you come in, like someone needs to come in there and need a bit more stability. At least, like I say, they could rely on Kyron Williams to at least move the chains and keep the drives alive. I think it showed a bit, like I say, it showed balls. Like I say, the kicker came in, did what kickers do, what they get paid to do, and why they get drafted in the end. Clutch game-winning field goal. And I think they'll be happy from a come-from-behind win because a lot of the games they've been winning, like then they've been throwing it away and just hanging on. But this one, to come from behind, does feel good. like I say, because they weren't necessarily, like I say, in this game for large parts, but to take and steal a win, like they'll feel good about themselves. Like I say, they're still right in there in the conference. Like I say, they're still hanging on to the coattails of the bigger sides. And like I say, they've just kept the dream alive for another week. Right, and they had to do it dirty this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that's one of the hardest places to go in college football, especially on their schedule this year, and to come away with a win, no matter what the situation. Huge props to them. Hopefully put their season back on the path they want it to go. But, fair praise to Virginia Tech. If it hadn't been for Burmeister going down injured, they'd have been right in that till the end, and they gave a really good showing of themselves. Moving on, still a few more to go through. So Boise State, the ones who we've not given a lot of love to this year. They were the Mountain Kings from last year. They've had a really poor year. They went to BYU, who were undefeated, having one of their best starts in forever and a day. I watched this one very closely, and Boise State came away 26-17 winners out of nowhere. I didn't see this result coming. I didn't think the Broncos had it in them, but after a really good start, the BYU went up 10-3 very early, and you're thinking, here we go, Boise State are done for. But then they put up nearly 26 unanswered points. And despite a late touchdown, BYU couldn't get into it, and it finished 26-17 to Boise State. BYU just looked out of sorts. Their running back, Tyler Allegia, he got a touchdown, 73 yards. He's had a good year, and he's profited from this really good BYU side. Jerry Hall, the quarterback, 302 yards, a touchdown, and interception. Not necessarily a bad day for him. And Gunnar Romney, 4 for 102 yards in the receiving game, but they just weren't able to finish off drives, put points on the board. Whereas Boise State, pretty solid across the lines. Hank Backmeyer didn't throw a touchdown, but didn't throw an interception. The running game was the difference. Andrew Van Buren, he is an absolute mountain of a running back. He's absolutely huge. He got 60 yards and a touchdown. I was like, Jesus, I really wouldn't want to tackle this guy. He's absolutely mad. And Cyrus Habibi Likio, he got 75 yards and a touchdown. Seemed to be the running game that separated these two. I didn't see this result coming at all, but BYU looked so poor, and Boise State looked like the team last year, which dominated the mountain region.
Yeah, no one saw this result coming. Like BYU were strong favourites to cover, like say, to beat them by a score or two. Especially, like say, I looked at the odds. Like say, this was a very odd game. Like say, the stats on paper for BYU were very respectable, but in the red zone, it just broke down. I think there was I think they might have fumbled. There was a few turnovers at times, like say, especially at Cree times. I think the difference, like say, Hank Backmeyer has thrown quite a few interceptions this year. Boise State have shot themselves in the foot a lot of times this year with turnovers, but they just played one clean game and they managed to hang on. They did really well this week, and that was a huge win. Not in the key terms, like the Mountain West Conference title is gone. Like they can't win it. But just for their own morale, like say, to try and get bowl eligible, that was a really big win. Like say, across the books, that was quite a big upset when you look at odds before games. So I think BYU will be pretty upset about that. Didn't give the best account themselves at all. Like say, they'll be quite frustrated with how that went. Like say, they had the numbers, they played well, but they just didn't execute. Like they weren't efficient. Like say, and like I say, that was quite a reasonable upset. Like I say, they dropped a few places in the rankings. They would not have expected to lose their unbeaten streak there.
No, you think they've spent all that effort, creating a record for their start to the season and how well they've done in some of the games they've played. And then Boise State come along, who've not really done much this year, and just tanked them in their own backyard. It was a shock, but we'll see how BYU recover from this, because this could derail their season completely, but we will see. Christ, these games we've gone through. We'll move on to one of your favorite teams. We talk about these every week. They're still unbeaten. This high-powered offense still looks amazing, and that is the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. They snuck out a win in overtime against Syracuse. This was another fantastic game. There were just so many fantastic games this weekend. Wake Forest won 40 points to 37. It went into overtime. Syracuse only managed to get a field goal. Wake Forest marched straight in with a touchdown, and it was dominant. in overtime. It was such a dominant drive just to go, yeah, that was a fluke. You're not beating us. And they've gone 6-0 on the season now. Sam Hartman, another great day for him, 19 of 32, 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. In the receiving game, 2 guys went over 130 yards. That was A.T. Perry. He got 137 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jaquari Robertson, he got 135 yards on 9 receptions, although he didn't get a touchdown, but can't win them all. Sam Hartman got a rushing touchdown as well. Again, another game for him. Garrett Schrader, the Syracuse quarterback, he's having a hell of a season, but for his rushing more than his throwing, he went 15 of 27 for 160 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he rushed 29 times. That is your quarterback rushing 29 times, 178 yards, about 6 yards a carry and a touchdown. And their actual running back, Sean Tucker, 26 carries, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns. Syracuse really dominating in the run game. Wake Forest really dominating in the passing game. Another game which just was to and fro all the way through it. You couldn't really separate them for the most part, and it came to overtime. But Wake Forest, their quality just showed through a little bit more. But Syracuse at 3-3, they're not a pushover this side.
No, they're definitely not. Like you say, I think this, like I say, was a potential upset alert. Wake Forest, they did not play well. I watched the game. They were actually really disappointing, especially in regular time. They kept shooting themselves in the foot defensively. They took these leads. Like I say, they could just not get, the defense could not get off the field. They kept letting Syracuse respond. And in the end, like I say, it came down to Syracuse trying to take it to overtime, just seconds left on the clock. Wake Forest blew multiple plays, let them get in. I expected them to lose in overtime. I was very much resigned to the fact that they've let this game go. But no, like I say, when it mattered, like I say, Sam Hartman, as he's done for like 4 or 5 years, stepped up, carried them on that drive, which saw them overtime. And they dodged the biggest bullet of the week, I think. They were terrible on defense. They couldn't stop anything in the run game. They really were lucky they didn't lose. Just another high-powered offense carrying a defense again. Like I say, they will not be happy, but they survived Louisville and Syracuse. That's 2 huge ACC wins. They're unbeaten in conference, like 3-0. That was a big test, but they've got bigger tests to come. They've still got Clemson, Boston College, and UNC. I still think they're an outsider shot for the title game, but I do worry about the title credentials if they couldn't put Syracuse away, because they've got a huge run coming very soon. But nope, they're one of the darlings of this nation. Everyone's sweethearts. People are finally starting to stand up and see them. And Syracuse were unlucky. They give really good account of themselves in a very up and down season.
Yeah, Syracuse are weird. It's like they lost to Florida State the other week, who hadn't won a game all season, and they didn't look the best in that. But then they take Wake Forest all the way to overtime. Their explosive offense is just like, which Syracuse am I going to get this week? I think they're much better than the 3-3 record belies, but I think just defensively they're a little leaky, which I think is their problem. But again, another great game to go on. I'm very well aware our time is getting short now, so there are a few more games. I'll put them out there and we can quickly talk about them. So Kentucky, one of the teams who are appearing under the radar this year, another one of the unbeaten sides, they put down a 42-21 whooping on LSU, who are just really having a bad year between injuries and games, in there. They're just not doing as well as they should be. Florida State, now Ash was really depressed about these guys a few weeks ago, but they got their first win the other day, and you're thinking, that's decent for their season, but they were playing UNC this weekend. You thought Sam Howell maybe going to bring them back down to earth. They won 35-25. They played UNC and they, to be honest, thoroughly dominated them. They took the lead early. They seemed to keep a good distance in front of them all game. I was watching. I kept expecting UNC to make a comeback in that one. It just never really materialized. And out of nowhere, Florida State have just become good again, which just says something about their 0-4 start. It's like, what the hell happened to that team and where are they now? Because, this was another result people didn't see coming. And then the other one I've got marked down here, Louisville, again involved in one of the good games of the week. They lost 34-33 to Virginia in yet another high-powered shootout with their offense on there. But as we said the other week, that defense is costing them because it's given up too much there. Did you watch any of those ones? Anything stand out to you in those games?
Yeah, like say Malik Cunningham, the Louisville quarterback. He's going under the radar, but right now he's probably one of the better quarterbacks in the nation. Like, it's funny because if you kind of squint and you watch his game, you think Lamar Jackson 2.0 is another dynamic dual threat on the run quarterback that can pass reasonably well. Like say Louisville do like that kind of quarterback, don't they? He's very much in the Lamar Jackson mold. Like say they're putting up good points. Defense is crap though. They can't stop anyone. Like say, and I saw people on Twitter calling the UNC defeat an upset. It won't for me because UNC defense is awful. They have been bad all year. Defensive line gets no pressure. That offensive line, Jordan Travis had all day, most day, like say, work on that team. Like say, do I think it'll stop the skid? Like, no, I don't think Florida State will be great all year, but back-to-back wins like that's really good for them. And it takes a hell of a lot of pressure off Mike Norvell, like say, because he was sweating at 0-4, one of the highest paid coaches in the nation. So to get back-to-back wins, we'll just turn the oven down just a notch. The heat is back to a simmer. But like say, the schedule is up and down. They could very well get another 2-3 more wins, which wouldn't be a disaster. The saving face, which gives credit to them. Because like say, John Travis is a young man, right? He's just learning the ropes really, and you get a lot of pressure on you at Florida State.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good they've settled on a quarterback, and I think that's what's done it now. They had a lot of quarterback turnaround so early in the season. You can't settle when your quarterback's changing so often, but both quarterbacks had a really good day. Travis had 145 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. He also rushed for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was the team's leading rusher, although the other two guys got 77 and 52, so they did well. And it was the same with UNC. Howell, again, don't blame this loss on Howell. This is nothing to do with him. He threw for 203 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did throw an interception, but he also led his team in rushing. 11 carries, 108 yards. It's not like he's not trying. 10 yards a carry, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. The other 2 running backs did okay as well, 61 and 60 yards. And Josh Downs, his name is a name you're going to hear mentioned a lot this year and going forward. He's really broke out in the absence of all the drafted guys this year. He had another 121 yards and a touchdown, and he's a name certainly to get familiar with. But yeah, this has been a bad year for UNC, and they're going to need to reload going forward. But well done to Florida State and to all the other teams who won this week. As I say, I'm running against the clock. Sorry, Ryan.
One last thing is, I feel like it's sad to say, I feel like this is the end of Mackenzie Milton. I feel his career, unfortunately, it's just fizzled out. He probably won't win the starting job now. I'll be lucky to see the field. And that really hurts me to say, because he's a fantastic young man. I don't know what he's like if he'll get any more eligibility if he's done with college now. But it's a real shame to see now where he's been beaten out, and Florida State will ride with Travis as long as they can now. So it's sad to say.
Yeah, it is. But I think the most important thing, he's got his health back. He's playing. Hopefully, he maybe gets a chance in future seasons to show what he can do and be part of a college team going forward, give himself a chance if he does decide to go up to the pros. But yeah, as far as the week went, so many good fixtures in here. There may be some we've not mentioned, but these games are all top notch in their own rights, and yeah, just so much good football on show. It is not bad. I'll not do the 5 to watch today, really. In fact, out your 5 guys, which one impressed you most this week? Because again, I'm a bit short on time.
Yeah, Matt Corral, because he had a good game passing, but rushing he did really well. It was one of his better games of the year.
Yeah, he's having a really good year, and his draft stock is increasing by the week. I think, like you said, just the lack of interceptions, especially against some of these teams he's got history with, it's just showing a change in his attitude, a change in his demeanor. He's maturing, he's getting better. His ceiling's really getting quite high now, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the draft with him. Good week for my quarterback as well, Carson Strong. With Nevada, they were only playing New Mexico State, who were a pretty bad team, but he threw for 380 yards, 6 touchdowns, just one interception. And Garrett Wilson's the other one, the wide receiver for Ohio State, who, as I say, are just beating the hell out of everyone at the minute. They put 66 down on Maryland this week. He got 5 for 84, another 2 touchdowns. I'll go through all his stats another week, but he's having an incredible year, and he's wide receiver 1, possibly, in my eyes. And as I say, Treylon Burks had a great week there. We're going to take a quick look at week 7, and then we've got a little viewer segment to finish off with Ryan. So looking at next week, Ryan, there's only 2 ranked battles next week in the top 25. The first one, the Kentucky, who we've given a bit of love to in this, they're traveling to Georgia. Now, they were able to put 40 down on LSU this week. I don't know if you got a chance to see them in that, but is there any chance they can go to Georgia and cause an upset there? Or is this maybe one step too far for that Kentucky side?
I don't think they'll cause an upset, but I think they will cause problems. People seem to keep underestimating Will Levis and that Kentucky offense. They've got a good ground game. They're just a good team. I don't think they'll win. They might get 20, 30 points, but they will cause Georgia some problems if they underestimate them. Like I say, I don't think if they go there and they just overlook Kentucky and look to the week after, then sure, yeah, maybe a chance. But I expect Georgia to they won't slip up like Bama did. They've got a stranglehold on that number 1 spot now. I don't expect them to release their grip.
No, I think that front 7 in their defense is just absolutely meteoric. It just can strangle teams and give them no shot whatsoever. I think they had 2 consecutive shutouts recently, and I think it's the first time they said it had happened in the SEC for about 40 years or something like that. It doesn't happen often, shutting teams out regularly, but that's what their defense does. It just strangles the team, starves them of oxygen. They can't keep up with them. So I'm with you. I don't think Kentucky are going to do much this weekend against Georgia, but this season, who knows? They might come out and beat them by 30 now just to prove us wrong again. The other ranked affair, Oklahoma State ranked 12. They go to the Texas Longhorns 25. This is quite an intriguing one, to be fair. If I consider these teams to be sort of equally matched, I know Oklahoma State are unbeaten, but Texas, as we saw against Oklahoma, they're an extremely good side, and they're led, I think, Jalen Warren, their running back, Oklahoma State. He's having a hell of a year. He's leading that offense there. But Texas, they've put down, 120 points nearly in 2 weeks. They are a match for anyone on their day. I suppose if you're looking for a possibility for what would technically be an upset this weekend, this would be the place to go.
Like I say, this is going to be all on the Oklahoma State defense. Can they bend but not break? Can they give up yards but not scores? Like I say, can they get takeaways? Because the offenses, I don't think they can compete. I don't think they can keep up pace with that Texas offense. Texas can score at will. Like I say, Bijan Robinson can break off a 50, 60-yard run at ease. Like I say, the quarterback, he's had 300-400 weeks. He's finally settled in now since they actually showed confidence in him, picked him as a starter. Spencer Brown, like I say, it's going to have to be a pretty mistake-free game. This could be, like I say, another huge shootout. Oklahoma State have been in some close games this year. They've just squeaked out a few wins. I don't see them getting the win. Like I say, they may rack up some yardage, but I'm not sure how many points they'll turn that into. Like I say, if Texas want to, Texas can put them away by halftime. It just depends which Longhorns turn up.
Exactly. And if Oklahoma State were to win this, then I think then we have to have serious conversations about them this year. That would be a hell of a statement win for them, and that would probably catapult them into the top 10, depending on how results go elsewhere. So that's one I'm going to hope to watch. It should be a good one. Next one I've got, I thought it was unranked, but apparently Clemson have sneaked back to 25 despite not playing this week. It's Clemson. They travel to Syracuse, who we've just said, they're better than their 3-3 record suggests this year. Garrett Schrader, the quarterback's just running, throwing all over the place. They've got good guys on there who can do damage. Their defense is a weakness, but Clemson's offense has been poor this year. So how do we see the Tigers rebounding? They've just had a week off, get some of their players rested up, maybe try and figure out some of the problems that have been plaguing them. I guess Syracuse winning this would be an upset, I guess, but can you see Syracuse winning this one, or are the Tigers going to come back with a vengeance and put them to the sword?
It's funny because I think it was 3 years ago, Syracuse knocked off #1 Clemson. It was 27-28. I remember watching the game. So they have done this before when the odds were stacked against them. But I think the fact that Clemson are coming off a week off, they've had time to, work with the players they've got. Like say, they've probably watched the Wake Forest game, seen how easily they moved the ball up and down the field and scored on them. Like I would expect Clemson to win this game, but I don't think they'll do it in fashion. This could be quite an ugly game. I think, as I say, like I said, Syracuse, this game's winnable. This game is there to be won. If Syracuse want to go take the Bulls by the horns, they could win this game, just as NC State did. Like I say, make DJU uncomfortable in the pocket, send pressure. That's what I would do. I would not give him any time to operate. This game is there to be won. It wouldn't be the biggest upset in the world, not like it was 3 years ago, because Clemson right now, there's a lot of questions about them. I think, like you say, because they're coming out well rested, or will they be rusty? Because they've had the week off, now teams are getting to their bye week. Maybe Syracuse will think, actually, we're in our stride. We've got a bit of momentum. We just put a lot of points on Wake Forest. This game, who knows what's going to happen?
Now, I'm hoping it's going to be a good one. Hopefully, Clemson can find that offense a bit, but I do like Syracuse this year. I've been entertained by them, and when teams entertain me, I like to see them win. So moving on to the next one, TCU at Oklahoma. Now, obviously, this is going to be Caleb Williams' debut there. He's going to be under a lot of pressure. He's at home in front of the fans who've been demanding for him to come and play. How do you see this one going? Can TCU be the team to stop them, or is Caleb Williams going to come in, take the bull by the horns, and lay down a signature win that could foresee the end of Rattler's college career with Oklahoma as a starter?
This is a big trap game. TCU are running the ball so well. 5-star recruit Zachary Evans has got into a groove now. TCU are running the ball. Max Duggan is a really good dual threat quarterback. Like I said, they've got some serious weapons on that Horned-Frogged offense. They've got a player on my 5-star list. They've got the cornerback Trevius Hodges Tomlinson. He had an interception last week, so they're able to take the ball away. My prediction is that they won't win, but I think they will be within 7 points result, less than 7 points. That's all that Oklahoma will get in this bye. Like I say, I think it's going to come on to the running game. Can TCU manage the clock if they're going to try to just run the ball down their throats? But no, this is a big trap game, and it could very well be a big upset.
Yeah, I'm going to put my upset alert there this week. I really want Caleb Williams to do well, but I do like TCU. I've not seen as much of them as you have, but I know I'm gonna try what you did and see if they can upset Oklahoma this week. The last one I've got down, your own Arizona State. They are at Utah. Utah dished out a beating on USC this week. Very quickly, how do you see this one going?
This is a game that worries me, like Stanford did. Like I say, I just saw Utah got a new quarterback. He just put like 400 yards. He had a fantastic game. They put down a proper spanking on USC. Scored 40 plus points, I think. Like so, they're no mugs. Like I say, and I think we're the big boys. We're the big fish now in the Pac-12 right now. Everyone wants to beat us, but we're not going to change anything. Chip Traynham, Rashad White, Daniel Nagata, we're going to run the ball down their throats. We just had over 250 yards rushing combined. We're one of the best rushing teams in the country right now. We control the clock. The defensive line, we're getting takeaways. I expect us to carry on with our Pac-12 dominance, pick up another conference win, and I want us to see us win. And I want us to see us win comfortably.
There you have it. Arizona State back them this weekend against Utah. Are there any other games before we quickly finish this that you would turn viewers to this week?
Like I say, it's one of the things like I can't remember who it is, but Maryland, who they're playing this game this week. It's a big week for them because they're coming off 2 massive losses. Like Talia Tungavailoa has like shown that he's had frailties in the last couple of weeks. Like it's going to be a really big week for them because they need to bounce back because they've conceded about 100, 110, 115 points in 2 weeks. They've given the ball away lots. Like they have been battered. like I said, they need a big response. They've got to get a win, and they've got to get it this weekend, because otherwise pressure will quickly mount.
I agree with that there. They have been poor these last few weeks, and it's up to them to try and get themselves back on track. It'll be interesting to see how they do. A few others, maybe a battle of the disappointing sides. The Hurricanes, Miami, they travel to UNC. Don't know how they're going to get on without Derek King. They've not been great, but UNC have equally been poor as well. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top of that. But most of the other fixtures is ranked against unranked. Arkansas play Auburn, but Auburn were terrible against Georgia this weekend. As thought, Bo Nix did nothing against that defense. He wasn't able to get anything going, and they got soundly beaten. But potential for some upsets, let's say, with a lot of ranked versus unranked. That's what you get there. So we are going to see with that. Very quickly to end this. Now, Ryan, I know you've done some scouting on possible head coaches for coordinators position. Do you want to leave that one till next week, have a bit more on it, or we can do it now if you want? Up to you.
We can go through it now. Like I say, I've picked a few head coaches and then a potential DC and an OC. Like I say, I think this year the big head coach name to watch out for is going to be James Franklin. If I was someone in the NFL, I would be looking at Penn State. Like, he is now 65-29 in his career, so he is a perennial winner. And if you look at what he's done that without an elite quarterback. Penn State have not had a great quarterback for a long time. He's done a lot of this with like Trey McSorley. He's now got Sean Clifford. Like, these aren't big, high-profile games. They don't have huge arms. They don't air raid on teams. He cares about run defense and running the ball. He cares about clock control, discipline, and he's been so productive in such a big, like, high-profiled pro offense. He's great on defense. Like, recently, Penn State have been sending some fantastic players to the draft. He's at that age now where I think he's kind of outgrowing college football. He's an incredibly high earner. He's reported on like $5 million potentially annually. So it would take a lot to get him away from Penn State. But if I'm him now, I want a bigger challenge. I think he could very well be the next guy that makes the jump to the NFL. There's another name, like, for me, Lincoln Riley. I think he could be the next defensive coordinator in the NFL. I think the head coach is too high a jump for him. Riley has worked with some big names, like you say, he's got Rattler now, but he's had Kyler Murray. He knows Baker Mayfield. He's worked with some fantastic, exciting quarterbacks. He runs a really well-drilled offensive scheme. Like I say, he takes shots. He loves the spread, but he can also use a running back when needed. Like, he's a big, high-profile name. I think he's built to be a next, like, potential offensive coordinator. So I think he leaves Oklahoma this year. I think he will take that step up. Someone's going to interview him. He could be the next Joe Brady in the NFL.
So just to throw in a quick hypothetical, if we said Anthony Lynn to USC and Lincoln Riley to come up to Detroit in his absence, would that be something you'd do?
It would be, yeah, but he wouldn't play Jared Goff. I think whoever Lincoln Riley goes to, he probably wants to have say in consideration the quarterback, and that would not necessarily be Rattler, but he would want consideration. I don't think Lincoln Riley would want Jared Goff. Won't suit that passing offense. No. Like I said, I think he's come of age now, and I think DC, this is a different one because this guy is like nearly 70, but Kirk Ferretz, he's been at Iowa now since 2000. He's got a record of 174 wins to 100 losses. So he's been a perennial pretty good winner. And for me, he's done that based on defense for a lot of his career now. Like, he runs, like, say, 2-3 safety scheme packages. Like, say, look at them this year. It just degenerates the turnovers. He loves defensive football. He wants to fill and block the trenches. He loves athletic defensive backs, corners, safeties. He's been sending a lot to the NFL in the last few years. He runs a good defensive scheme. And I think right now, like, if he's going to finish his career in a high, like, I think he could be nicked from Iowa Hawkeyes, especially if they were to miss out on the playoffs. I think he might have, like, maybe a few good years left in him. I think he could potentially be a defensive coordinator in the NFL, even though he's a bit late in the tooth. But I think these are guys this year that right now that are on programs that are really up there, superseding, but maybe they're outgrowing college football potentially. That was for Ash, who asked the question.
Yeah, thanks, Ash, for that. I agree. I think Franklin's a really good shout. I really like what he's done with Penn State, especially their defense. Their run defense is one of the best in the country. And I mean, especially their linebackers, they're a linebacker production factory. And when you're a team like Detroit, who's not had a good linebacker in forever, it would be great to have someone who'd be able to develop them like that. So, I fully agree with the shout on him. Hopefully our paths may converge in the future, but we will wait and see. So that's everything just about from us this week. Is there anything else that we've maybe missed? I know if Wolverines fans listening, we didn't mention your game against Nebraska, which was a really good game, but there were that many we couldn't fit it in. But we'll give them some love next week if they win. Although I think they're off this week, I could be wrong, but we'll give them some love there. But anything else from you, Rye, before we sign off and quickly go into the Bengals preview on the main pod?
Yeah. All I'm just going to say is, like, from next week, like this week, I'm going to pick a best and worst uniform of the week. This week, anyone that has Twitter, Instagram, follow Uniswag and go check out the Florida Knights' new space uniform. It's dubbed as one of the best in college football. It looks like a NASA rocket. And Cincinnati Bearcats, they've basically just taken the Texas Tech home uniform, slapped their logo on it, and called it something special. Very uninventive. That's the best and worst for this weekend's games. Like I say, I'm going to look at some more. Like, I'll pick a winner each week, but go follow them on Twitter and Instagram at Uniswag, and they will show you all of them, all the announcements for upcoming kits. So it's a great page to follow.
Why do I feel like Arizona State are going to feature heavily on the winners in that one? You're not going to be showing any bias here, right?
No,
I know.
I won't name any. Yeah, I won't pick any on Arizona State, even though we're one of the best dressed in the whole country week in, week out, because that just won't be fair.
They do have swag, but yeah, that'll look forward to that. I'm looking forward. I'll have a little look. I hope Oregon are on there because their uniforms are absolutely sick. But yeah, that's everything for this week. And I've got to rush through this because Matt is yelling at me because we've got a Bengals preview pod to do now. So next episodes for the main podcast, we're just about to do the Cincinnati Bengals preview now. So that doesn't really count. Monday, the 18th of October, we'll be doing the review for that game. Maybe the first win of the season, who knows? But that many injuries, it's hard to see at this point in time. Wednesday, the 20th of October, next week, our next college podcast, we will be looking at a review of week 7. And hopefully we'll be doing a half-season mock draft as well that we'll be taking a look at the players who've impressed so far and who we'd take now if given the opportunity to do so. So tune into that. And as always, if you've got any questions, queries, anything about college football, let us know. We'll get them involved in the show for you. If you've listened to us, you'll have heard how in-depth and detailed we go into any audience requests. So keep those coming. We really appreciate it. Just remains me to end on the socials. So you can find us YouTube, Roar of the Lions UK, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, ROTL_UK, Facebook. You'll find us on page Roar of the Lions UK, Facebook group Detroit Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide, and you can find us on the website www.roarofthelionsuk.com. Just remains for me to thank Ryan for joining me again today. Another great weekend of college football. Been great chatting about it, and hopefully we've got another good weekend to come up with on that one. But until next time, we shall be seeing you. One Pride.
One Pride.